Today's video is about connecting wires together. Now there are a few other videos online about this which are great, but we're going to offer some pro tips today by certified electricians to show you how to make it easier when you're doing your wire connections or when we do our wire connections, and some key secrets, so stick around. So here we have some connections we're going to do with some of these 14 gauge wires. Basically we're going to strip them back and show you how we put several underneath of a wire connector or a Marrette, as we call it. So basically what we need is a pair of strippers and also a pair of linesman pliers. So we take our trusty linesman and we're going to strip back the wires. Now, some of you may be saying, why is he using linesman pliers to strip back the wires? And this just simply comes with years of experience. So we can basically use the proper strippers and strip them back for the number 14 gauge. But you see, when we're out on the job sites, sometimes we don't want to grab these extra tools. So it's quite a bit easier if we just use our linesman pliers. So if we're using a good pair of sharp linesman pliers, we simply can just put enough pressure on until we strip the wire back. And that comes with, like I say, experience. So what we do when we put a lot of connections together for wires, we'll go back. A standard strip would be about 3/4 of an inch, but we'll go back probably 1 1/4 inches. And there's a reason for that when we're actually connecting the wires together. So we have our wires stripped. We have several of our wires here, and we're going to put them together. Now, obviously the Marrettes are rated for just sticking the wires together, like so, and then putting a Marrette on and twisting them. We don't really like doing this because what happens is it can create a loose connection. So inside the Marrette connector, or inside the wire nut connector, it's actually tapered back to a point. And that point is what brings the wires together. So we always twist them in a clockwise formation. So when you have 3 wires, we usually line up the ends where the insulation comes around, and then we'll twist them in a clockwise motion. So we'll take our linesmen and twist them, and we'll start them right from the end and work our way through, and we'll twist them pretty good. Just trying to get a better angle on this camera here because it doesn't want to cooperate. There. Let's stay there. That seems to be center of the camera. And then the end gets cut off, and then of course the Marrette gets put on, or the wire connector gets put on. So that's a standard wiring connection, which will work, and that's not coming apart. However, when we get into more wires, or a bunch of wires in a connection box with several connections, like say a 4 or 5 gang junction box or a switch box, will have several neutrals or several tails we need to bring off. So it gets a little more difficult when you have all of those connections. So here's one of the pro tips. So when we're stripping more wires, and I'll do this with my strippers, we'll go back again, like I mentioned to you, about 1 1/4 inches. So let's say you have a box that has 5 or 6 in them, and you want to get a good connection. This can be quite cumbersome to try to hook these all up and get them together underneath a Marrette correctly. So let's take, there's 5 whites here and a black. Let's take these and line these all up. So what we're going to do, and I'll show it a little more closely here, we're going to stagger these wires. So each one, we're going to come back probably from the next one, I'd say maybe a 1/16 of an inch, not much. And we're going to line them up. And what that does, that staggering, it makes the chunk of them a little thinner. So by staggering, we can get a nice group put together just like so. Now, we'll usually line them up and then we'll start twisting. So when we twist, we take our linesman pliers and we'll start at the end and we'll start a clockwise motion and we'll twist. Now here is the important key secret. We can cut this square across here flat, but we don't do that. We cut them on a 45-degree angle. And the reason we cut them on a 45-degree angle, as you can see, just like so, when that Marrette connector goes on there, because this tip, it comes to a tip, it helps bite the Marrette when it goes on there. So instead of coming to a blunt end where all the ends are equal, they're staggered back just enough to take that Marrette on there. And boy, does that Marrette ever go on there good. So once we get it as tight as we possibly can with our hand, then we usually take our lineman pliers and we'll give an extra turn or two with our pliers. And that is just enough to keep that connection permanently together. So as you can see, that is twisted together there thoroughly. All of the end connections are twisted together, and the Marrette is on there to the point that it's actually bulging out a little bit, which is a good thing because it means it's on there good and solid. So there is no way that that connection is coming apart. These 14 gauge wires are rated for 15 amps, so each equal part of each one of these wires can actually carry the 15 amps. If you get areas of the Marrette that don't make connection, or you get a wire that's back too far or not making a connection, then that can cause arcing, obviously, and it can cause a fire. So it's very important when you're doing larger connections like this, especially in multiple gang boxes, to have the connection secured. So that's just a couple of the simple pro tips that we use on the job sites when we actually twist these things together to keep them from coming apart. So there's no real wrong way to do it. Like I said, many of the other videos online do a very good demonstration of how to do it, but we just take that little extra step, and that's what we do, and that's just coming from experience. So there you have it. That's today's pro tip on how to properly do a connection together in a Marrette connection or a wire nut connection. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.